case, if you have not written your name, please do it in the attendees list. One of the first topics is the from Jubril that he asked in Slack that why we don't use Alpine or a smaller image to build the Docker images. That is a good question. Let me see where those are. Where are those files? Jubril, do you have there the link of the repo where you saw that?
Yeah. Okay, I'll share the link in chat.
Okay.
I've sent the link.
Yeah, I got it.
Oh, by the way, I was gonna, so Jubril, I was gonna try to provide an answer in chat when you'd asked this question earlier, and part of my response was gonna be like, my goodness, I think initially we were on Alpine, and then at least for the Meshery server image, and then multi-stage builds came out, and we started to get more clever, and then I'm surprised, okay. Is it still the case? Are we really on Ubuntu as the base image for Meshery server? That seems weird and unlikely. Oh, because
Then maybe because we moved to Ubuntu because we've been using a couple of binaries which are built for Ubuntu. The load testing stuff like the WRK or Nighthawk builds that are currently there. I guess they are for those binaries are built for Ubuntu, and that's the reason probably we moved back to or we moved towards Ubuntu image.
but then the artifact that's released, like to I think part of Jibril's point, it was like, hey, these
So
things.
sorry. So sorry.
And Jibril, go ahead.
Oh, I meant my connection dropped, so I didn't get a bit of what you said.
Good. Just so you know, I'm always happy to repeat stuff. Like these guys are sick of hearing me talk. So what I was saying is you're totally right. Like, hey, we shouldn't be wasting space unnecessarily. That even moving like Abhishek has led the way toward us moving some of the Meshery adapter images over to distroless, right? Distroless as the base image.
Yeah, that's right.
And while that's true for some of the adapters, and it makes things, about as lightweight as we, super lightweight, which becomes important when someone goes to use Meshery and it downloads, like 10 images, and it's like, oh, geez, they're just kind of sitting there waiting for the images to download. One of the negative aspects of using distroless or using such a small image is, boy, it's really like if you try to debug something that's going on, you don't have tooling to do so, and that's the trade-off. It's not that using such a small image is the wrong thing. It's in some respects it puts a little more pressure on the application itself to have its own instrumentation, to have its own mechanisms for debugging itself, and or debugging, or for us just to and Jabril, this might be something that you want to do, for someone to say, hey, as the image gets smaller and you have less and less utilities, like you don't have telnet, or you don't have ping, or ns lookup, or dig, or some of these common utilities that you might need to to use as you're debugging a connectivity issue, or whatever. Well, then, hey, that's fine. They're not on the image directly, but what the process is that you attach a utility container, or you sidecar a debug container, and here's the process for that. Like, that's something that would be helpful. That's something that would make us collectively more comfortable with slimming down the image sizes. So Jubril, if that makes sense and is of interest, I'll try to rewrite that in Slack just to make sure that my audio came through and you got that. But guys, I mean, here though,
Yeah, sure. It definitely makes sense that you wouldn't want to make it too slim so it's not a pain to debug. But if you're using something like Alpine, you still have a few of those utilities, and if you want to, you can just install them. It wouldn't take too long. But yeah, it's kind of like finding a balance between small and nothing at all.
yeah, totally. And some of it's about choice. Some of it's like, hey, if you're, I mean, yeah, it's like, hey, go turn on debug mode, then you can see all the, for the application for Meshery, like go turn on debug mode, or yeah. Anyway, there's a bunch of right answers, and one of those correct answers, even if the image is on Alpine, it might still be that you don't have certain utilities. So, like, and not everyone who's using the project or the tool necessarily is familiar with other mechanisms to, like attach a container or do other ways of figuring some of this stuff out. So we don't necessarily need to teach Kubernetes or teach containers to everyone, but we don't have much by way of troubleshooting guides today. So I mean, that's just a good thing to have in general, is like, hey, what are you actually, we should have brought this up before, because there's, I mean, yeah, is we don't, yeah, is a troubleshooting guide. It's like, Meshery runs in a certain way. Can you run Meshery on a service mesh? Meshery manages service meshes, but can you deploy Meshery on a service mesh? Yes, you can. Do we have that documented? No, we have a deployment file, a Kubernetes deployment file in the install folder in the Meshery repo, but that's it. Like, nobody knows that it's there. What, like, hey, maybe we should do that too. Anyway, back to your original point about the size and are the artifacts that are being built here, are we taking the image away as the artifact, or are we taking a binary away as the artifact? Is this even valid anymore, Abhishek?
Yes.
Okay. The Nighthawk stuff is okay.
Oh no, not the night of. I thought you were pointing out to night of stuff is uh, probably valid because I've never changed it. Like it's the same thing that what Kush had put in.
Okay.
I did not change it after that.
Something to look into.
Yeah,
Something.
after I get the builds properly scaled up, I'll go modify this.
So on this, actually, this is an opportune time to tell Jibril and Piyush, specifically you two guys, about this other project. The project is called Get Nighthawk, and it's fairly young. We have meetings on the project in the CNCF. Actually, it's at about this time. It is at this time, like next Yeah, next week. Next week we'll have a meeting on Get Nighthawk, and so I'll send you a link to see if some of the work that's going on there is intriguing, because while it's a different project, we're doing the project for Meshery, so there's going to be overlap, and it might be of interest to you. So.
Sure.
But to Jubril's original point, though, like what? So, if I'm reading this correctly, we're producing like what's the outcome here? What's the output of? Is this just one image? Are we producing 3 images, 4 images?
No, it's just a single image.
Okay,
Uh,
based on Ubuntu.
yeah, we're just doing a multi-stage build on Docker.
Maybe it could be nice to have a proposal PR replacing Ubuntu with Alpine and see if everything is working and compare the sizes. Maybe.
Yeah.
Or we could just have 2 releases, like the Alpine version and Ubuntu version.
Yeah, yeah, that option sounds good. Also to keep the Ubuntu one there.
Yeah. What we that would that mean that there might be two offerings, like one that is one that's for people to run in kind of a development mode, and one that's offered as more of a production mode. Like if we did 2.
Yeah, one for development and one for
Yeah,
production.
exactly.
Nice. Yep, that's a thought. In part, like Jubril, as you think on that a little bit. So, by the way, Jubril, this is the second meeting that you've been on, right? Second Layer 5 meeting.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Nice. Good. Good. You're hooked already. Good. Okay. Since this is your second meeting, you get to you get to walk away with an action item, or if you want it, and that is like one of the things to think about. Like in general is if you think so. So one thing I mentioned was there's kind of a lack of a troubleshooting guide. There's kind of the start of one, but broadly, we're lacking. In that context is the same kind of a context that an effort to produce 2 different images. It would be sort of in that context, like this other, one for prod, one for dev, kind of a thing. That along to advance that thought a little bit, right now there is, and Rodolfo can tell you all about this. There's a build and release strategy, a document that outlines what the CI processes are for Meshery and all of its components, the fact that there are multiple release channels. So, and this may be something to play into. So, to describe that briefly, there's 2 release channels that one of which is called Edge, and the other one is called Stable. And they are what they sound like. One's out there, And so you might imagine that if there are 2 Docker builds of Meshery and of the components, one that's slimmed down, one that's based on Ubuntu, that maybe the stable release channel only ever uses this, Alpine or distroless or something slim. The other release channel, the Edge one, maybe it uses the, I don't know, just kind of thinking out loud as you think about, as you digest all of this, as you kind of step into it. There's one other got you though, and maybe Abhishek, you might be able to shine some light on this, and that is that in the Docker file, of those multiple stages, one of the stages, oh, okay, I thought we lost Jubril. One of the stages is for WRK2. It's a C++ application. The other one is for Nighthawk. It is also a C++ application. And no doubt that, are we compiling those or are we just grabbing binaries? But the compilation of those, though, does require, a more robust OS with a bunch of, a tool chain to generate those. So part of what the project Get Nighthawk is about, it's about building Nighthawk and making it available in various formats, various architectures.
Yeah, in here in this particular
Quick
document.
question. Does WRK2 and Nighthawk, I was asking if Meshery relies on WRK2 and Nighthawk. Did you get that?
Yeah, I did. I did. I'm hoping that Abhishek talks.
Uh, yeah, so first of all, on the about the image, yes, we are compiling WRK2 during build time, and we are not compiling Nighthawk because we're just fetching the image from the container and then transferring it to Meshery's container. And that's about like what was the second question again?
Does WRK2 and Nighthawk, or does Meshery rely on WRK2 and Nighthawk?
Yes, partly. I mean, there is a section for invoking or doing performance testing on the dashboard, and in there, basically, it depends on the type of test you invoke. We do support WRK2, Fortio, and Nighthawk right currently, and each of these binaries are invoked under the hood to perform those tests.
The another way of let me characterize that a little bit differently, just to, and that is to say that if someone wants to compile and build Meshery, Meshery does not require WRK2 or Nighthawk to be present. So you can build Meshery without it. When you run Meshery, as a user, you're using Meshery. When you try to use the features, the performance management features that Abhishek just mentioned, if the WRK2 binary or the Nighthawk binary, if they're not also resident on the same image, or if they're not also available on the same local file system, then you have an issue. Then that's where the dependency comes in. But in terms of building and compiling code, they're independent.
Oh, okay, thanks.
So Jibril, how about that? How about that troubleshooting guide? That,
Yeah, I guess it could be something that comes up as more questions get asked.
sure.
Because, like, is there currently an FAQ? So we could
Yeah,
probably start from there.
yeah, yeah. It's a good. Yeah, let me characterize that a little bit in chat.
Okay. Is there isn't something else about the Docker images? We can continue with the next topic. The next one is one task that I am assigned to, that is to incorporate the creation and publishing mentioning Helm charts into the stable release. I will be working on this one this weekend. I need to ask Aizuko, that is the maintainer of the Helm charts, if he has some progress or if not, I can take that issue because that issue is assigned to him. But yeah,
Yeah.
we need to publish those Helm charts in the stable workflow.
Yep. I had spoken with him yesterday or the day before, and he was working on it. That
Mm.
said, um, he doesn't get it, or he's not, and so well, I had helped him along on like, but of the questions he's asking, like, so and also Asuko has been with the project for a year and something like, and his toes don't get stepped on, or like it's not, he's not gonna, he won't be upset. He will offer comment and try to help, reinforce work that you've done. Um, but yeah, it's slightly confusing for him. So
Okay, yeah. So I think I can talk with him and um, and get a solution together, because the last time that I talked with him, I think we got a point. So yeah, I think we can work together. I will be, yeah, posting the progress on GitHub or in the meetings also.
oh, nice.
Uh,
I was just tossing in some idea. If we're up to the next item, I was just tossing in some ideas about, or I was remembering the fact that, well, the docs still build on a number of PRs, and
okay.
there's a couple different ways to approach the issue, and I don't remember what combo we were using currently.
For
S-
example, this PR is modifying or updating the docs, and the workflows were triggered. That is okay, I think so. But this one that is not modifying some docs, the workflows related to docs should not be triggered. And yeah, I think the checks were not triggered because the deploy was canceled. This branch has not been deployed.
oh, I see. So, okay. So
Yeah,
the issue.
because yeah, sorry.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry.
Continue.
Well, the issue here is that I think they end up charging us for that minute or those 2 minutes or what, the 30 seconds or whatever. And by charging, I mean like eating up the free minutes. At this point, I don't. It was a really big issue when we were trying to work so fast on layer 5 NG on the new website, and anymore, I don't think we're running over our minutes. But that was mostly why we had wanted to not do it, was like to not invoke Netlify at all. You know, because I'm assuming
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Some workflows were not triggered by default, but someone that the deployed preview, the only setting that we can create to avoid that is that checking this rule. So
Well, or in the well, maybe I'm not seeing this, but in the GitHub actions themselves, is it a GitHub action that is invoking this deployment that's webhooking
no,
Netlify?
no, this workflow is triggered by linking the layer 5 repository. It's by default.
So I mean, another way of doing it is like, and maybe at this point, maybe it's not worth it, but the other way of doing it is to have the GitHub action make that determination. And if changes are being done to docs files, to then invoke the build preview from Netlify.
Yeah, we can check that option because I don't know if I think there is an API of Netlify in order to trigger that workflow and and unleaked from here because if we don't want that a couple of minutes, I think we should remove the Meshery repo from here in Netlify.
Yeah, or well, or but then if we did that, then it wouldn't have a place to do the build to preview.
Right. If we remove that, we don't longer have previews in unless we configure that manually.
Yeah, yeah. And so, like in concept, we would leave this. I don't know what you call it, but this project, this site, but the deployment configuration of Netlify for that site would be not to do anything, or not to be watching, you know, the repo, rather waiting to be webhooked for, like just the start point changes. And so that's one way of, another way of.
Yeah.
Do you know how many minutes we like, just to, if we look back over,
Over the deployment?
yeah,
Over the logs or
okay, well, right there it says 31 minutes out of 1,000, which is really low. Um, I don't know when that got reset. Like, what I'm wondering is if this is worth spending time on. And before it was, you know, they were charging money,
yeah.
but now if we're not in danger of running over the minutes, then maybe we're doing fine. So if you, yeah. So if you go back into Netlify, you go to like the top level view, it should tell you like how many build minutes have been used. So,
Yeah, where is it?
oh,
I
yeah.
forget. This one. Yeah, 31 minutes.
And last month, 275, because we had already finished with, see how January, like December and January were like insane. And then we basically stopped it, turned it all off in February because we kept getting charged. We
Right.
turn it back on. Wow. Anyway, like, yeah, there's absolutely a way to not have, like, to not have Netlify invoked, but to have that controlled from GitHub Actions to determine whether or not files have changed under a certain path, and then from there take action under that path. And that'll actually be the same approach that you'll end up taking this weekend with, like, irrespective of what Asuko says. I mean, I'm telling you, like, that, yeah, you'll determine whether or not there's been a change to the /install folder. And then if so, okay, it's time to actually, I take it back. Like, you don't necessarily, you won't be, you don't, yeah, I guess, you'll have to look. Basically, I don't, if every time I make a Meshery release, we should be releasing probably really, you'll have to look to see what image tags we're using. If it's stable latest, then thank you, Alonso. If it's stable latest, then maybe we don't have to cut a release every time. But the reality is it doesn't really matter. Like, we could rev that chart all day long. Who cares? I don't care. We just need to, okay, Jubra, we just need to, but we need to be getting the latest stuff out there to people and making sure that updates are getting out, and we're not. Moreover, I don't think that chart necessarily has all the adapters in there, like, or all
Okay.
the components that we need that are in there. So yeah, as you dig in, I'm excited to see what you come up with.
Yeah, I will. Sorry, I will dig
the
that in. Sorry.
sorry. No, go ahead.
Yeah, I will dig into that this weekend in order to how the Helm charts behaves, and publish on every stable release or not. But yeah, I need to check the code because I am not too familiar with the Meshery Helm charts.
Sure. Something else. Oh, is as a, yeah, as you take a look at it as a user, I think you'll find that we're like the user experience could be a little bit better. We end up outputting a couple of statements at the end telling the user what to do next, and I don't know that they're accurate. So one of the, actually, Abhishek, can you take this note, maybe open an issue about it? Is that as a user, and maybe it's just documenting this process, as a user, if I only want to have like the Meshery adapter for Linkerd, then how do I do that using the Helm install? Is there a values that I can supply that specifies only certain adapters? It's just an issue to create, not for you to do.
On the Meshery repo?
Yeah, if you would. Yeah.
Okay.
And so next topic, I guess.
Yeah, I think we don't have any topics, but I wanted to mention that last of a couple of weeks ago, um, there were some pull requests from Piyush in order to have Cypress tests in the front end. And yeah, that is very, we are very glad to have him in the community because he has helped a lot in the test part. I think the next focus of the CI group is to have Golang test or Golang unit test in order to test everything that we have because we don't have unit testing in the backend at all. So I think that could be one of our main focus here.
Totally. Oh yeah. As part of that, like one thing we could do next time we meet or before we meet is, well, is try to outline the test, like the test plan, or maybe it's just the high level test strategy. Because in part, what you're saying right now is part of the test strategy for guaranteeing that releases are solid and stable is that we should test some stuff with Cypress. We should, end to end. We should test some unit tests in Go. We should slim down the image sizes. We should probably, just like, and so that the strategy doc should sort of, speak to a lot of that high level. And then the other like test plan spreadsheet maybe is more of like an itemized, it's not like it lists out every unit test, or it's not like more like what that would do is it would just, based on what the strategy says, it would do something like, oh, here's a row for every adapter, and maybe there's like there's like one high level end-to-end test or 5 high level end-to-end tests. And it's just like one of the things that we capture about the adapter is what's the current passing percentage of unit tests. So it doesn't list out all the unit tests. It's just like, yes, there are unit tests. Here's their status. But yeah, just even laying, here's the function. And then basically, like, I think a lot of it would be capturing what Cypress is doing, like the end-to-end stuff, because that covers so much ground. It's like, do we have a sense of what is covered under end-to-end tests and what isn't? Part of what would go into the strategy doc is the fact that we're using bats for like shell scripting of testing out the console adapter specifically. Good. We're only using it for that adapter, not for the rest. Bad. If we're going to move this across, should we move that across all adapters, or should we use something else?
Yeah, I think that each adapter is already tested with bats, but we need to test the backend Meshery code, right? Like the connection to the cluster. Yep.
Yeah. Wait, are all the, I guess I thought it was only the console adapter that's being tested with bats. Maybe.
I think, yeah, I think that you're right. The console adapter is the only one, but all the other adapters has the base code already there. So I think we can only copy and paste
Oh,
in the
nice.
other test. But yeah, I think I will check that
Nice.
because I implemented that in Meshery console, so I think I can take that for the other
Yeah.
adapters.
Quick question: what do adapters do?
Good question. Lee, do you want to explain that?
Yeah, actually, I know VJ was just about to explain it.
No, I wasn't. I was just going to say that a few weeks ago, I don't remember when, I did write out a strategy, on testing. It may not be what you're looking for, but I put out a paper, and I think I covered a little bit of batch and what was the other Cypress, and what each of them does, and on which platform. Like for instance, you have batch is good for something else, so maybe you have to have. And also I laid out a few things about what are the types of testing you can possibly do. I mean, you have like installability testing, you have like performance testing, you have unit testing, regression testing. So anyway, those are probably not things they're looking for. But what I did is, I just put out a few thoughts on a piece of paper, and
That's great. Yeah, VJ,
anyway,
that's great.
adapters enable the. Okay, that's fine. Adapters enable Meshery to connect to service meshes. So there's. I'm not the best person to help to answer this, but since Lee put me on the spot, I thought I'll put that in.
Yeah,
All
no,
right.
Yeah, so you
it,
have one mesh adapter for each type of service mesh that you have.
and VJ also has a uh, well, it's a Google slide deck. It's called Meshery Architecture. Um, that VJ might share with you because it'll give you a logical diagram of the different components of Meshery and how they interface with the infrastructure.
Okay, can I get a link to that?
VJ is probably hunting down that now. Yeah, yeah,
I'll
absolutely.
put that link into general.
Nice.
Okay, thanks.
VJ, on your testing strategy, that's fantastic. Even if for whatever reason the project didn't end up doing a particular type of tests or test, that it's still a good thing to list down like under out of scope. These are out of scope, and like here's why we aren't doing that now or decided to never do it. But most of them probably are in scope, and yeah, just a singular document to point people to repetitively, to say, here's what those frameworks are. Here's the thought. Here's where you go get introduced, and to be able to, the stuff that you put into, I think the doc that was just being shared a moment ago, there's a document called the master master test strategy or something like that. It definitely says master in it, and I think it's the
Yeah,
only one that's go take liberties with it. I mean, like I was just trying to create it as a placeholder for just what you've just done. So yeah, please, draft, put those in, and we can review on this call for sure. Releases are like, releases are absolutely what we're talking about here. There's the build and release strategy. There's the master test plan strategy.
Yeah, I don't find I could not find that document, but yeah, I checked before. It's something master strategy.
Yeah. If
Okay,
you
I'll
go,
search for that and put that link again in general. Okay, or Meshery CI or anyway, both of them.
Or in Zoom, maybe it could help also.
Okay, let me look for that.
Master test strategy. Here is, yeah, this one, right?
yep, should be pretty empty. Yeah.
But there was another, right?
Yeah. There's another one. So yeah, there's the strategy, and then there's the test plan, like more of a. So the last link that and I don't know that. I don't think I created a test plan. If I would have, it would have been a spreadsheet because it's because I consider it to be a very itemized, like specific thing. And so, yeah, first starting with the strategy and then moving into the specific plan. And then VJ had that testing strategy right there. VJ, he put it into the build and release folder. So we can consolidate what he's got into the master test strategy. So he's got one at the bottom there. It's called testing strategy. Yeah, that one. There you go.
Yep, this one.
And then Jibril, to talk more to like the architecture, there's a community drive, Jibril, that you should, there's the link to it in chat. Lots of docs to browse within there. The Meshery Architecture slide deck is within there as well.
All right, thank you.
Do we have other topics today? What else do we want to?
No, I think those were all. Someone else has another topic that is not here in the meeting notes that want to be discussed.
So I've got two. The first one is that Aditya, it's nice to have you on the call.
Thanks, Lee.
And we'll, if you join tomorrow's community call, we will get to know you even better on that call.
Yeah, sure. I'll be there.
Nice. Good. We've got it. Good. And then Jubril, you had a topic. So, okay, so good. Well, so anyway, so Aditya, we'll talk more shortly. Actually, one of the topics, yeah. Anyway, I'll bite my tongue on talking about Docusaurus.
Okay, sure. Yeah. I thought you said it to some other person.
Yeah,
I didn't get you.
Yeah, no. Okay, good. Yeah, so we'll talk more about that either in tomorrow's community call or in next week's Meshery server or Meshery development call. But
Okay,
either
sure.
way,
That would be good. Yeah.
and then Jubril, the second topic that I'd had was more about you. It was just that keep your questions coming, and if you have other ones, let's talk about them now. Else, we might take this
I
time.
actually have one more. Okay, so does Meshery do service discovery of other meshes, or you have to manually Meshery that you have these running in cluster?
Abhishek, do you want to answer that? What? So Jubil, your voice cut in and out there, so I'll fill in the blanks. Abhishek, are you gonna do it?
Am I audible now?
Yep.
Great. My headphones are so bad. Okay. Uh, I just lost the last part of the voice. Jubil was asking something, actually.
Yeah.
Can someone repeat that?
Yeah, you know what? Actually, let me hear. I'll field it. I'll field the question. So, Jubil, great question. In general, your question was, and Abhishek, interrupt me if I'm stealing the thunder. So, but the question was really about like service discovery and what all does Meshery discover? Part of your voice cut out a little bit, Jubil. So I think you were saying, does Meshery discover service meshes, like existing ones? Does it
Yeah.
discover services that are on those service meshes? Does it maybe interface with like a console as a general, not console the service mesh, but console the service discovery, server system? Like does Meshery discover VMs and stuff? With that context, Abhishek, do you want to take it? Talk about.
Yeah, so currently Meshery relies mostly on the Kubernetes discovery system. So anything at all that is detected or that has been inside the network of Kubernetes is projected out inside Meshery. For example, from the native resources to the custom resources to any federated virtual machines that are inside the service network of Kubernetes. All of these are currently projected out of Meshery. Uh, yeah, that's pretty much the statefulness.
So yeah, so there's a particular component inside. So I'll make it sound more sexy then, because there's a particular component of Meshery that's called Mesh Sync. Mesh Sync is responsible for synchronizing service discovery, state information, anything that goes on, anything that goes on inside of Kubernetes that's of interest to Meshery and that would be under management by Meshery, or that Meshery just generally needs to be aware of. Mesh Sync will get that over to a central to a Meshery server, so that it can reason over a lot of that. So the adapters that Meshery has allow Meshery to speak to go deep on any one of the given service meshes that it manages, and Mesh Sync that runs under control of Meshery operator. It interfaces like Abhishek was saying with Cube API and with all of the things that it's tracking, pulls that data back so that it can reason over it and do more intelligent things with by understanding the state of the mesh or the state of Kubernetes, the state of the mesh, the state of the workloads. There's a visualization project that's called Mesh Map that will visually depict the topology of the various service meshes and the services that are running on top of them, provide metrics and things like that. It'll also eventually let you design the mesh, so you'll be able to visually design the workloads that you want on the service mesh. You'll be able to take actions on the service meshes, or maybe do things like performance tests against services that are running on the mesh or off the mesh. It'll let you onboard and offboard services off the mesh. It'll basically that visual topology will do anything that you can do in Meshery through the form-based UI. You should be able to do there as well. So Mesh Sync is new as of this release that just happened like yesterday. I don't think we've actually made an announcement about it, but it's the .5 release. And yeah, which means that Meshery will perform some amount of discovery. So certainly if you use Meshery to provision a service mesh, Meshery is aware of that fact. It's the one that provisioned it. But Meshery also supports brownfield environments, meaning if you already have a service mesh deployed, you can deploy Meshery. It will discover the fact that a mesh is there, pull back that info through Mesh Sync, Meshery also understands that it's not the source of truth, and that's why it's doing that synchronization. Meshery understands that it isn't always going to be the one that's used to affect the state of a mesh or of the workloads that are running on the mesh. So this type of an architecture tries to help elucidate like what, which components Meshery considers itself authoritative for, what is wrong, and which aspects what elements under what infrastructure under management is Meshery not responsible for and doesn't own. If Meshery owns an object, then it owns its complete full life cycle. Even at that, even for some of the objects that Meshery might own, like a service mesh, it'll provision it, it'll deprovision it, it'll update the configuration. Still, there's an understanding and a recognition that operators of or users of the service mesh may not always use Meshery to make changes to it. So Meshery needs to be continually in sync with the service meshes. So it's an interesting question when you place it like that, Jubril, is that we don't talk about Meshery doing service discovery. Although, yeah, that's exactly what it's doing. I mean, it's doing that plus plus some things to the side of that. We had just, or for my part, I hadn't used the term Meshery doing service discovery there, but yeah, it has to.
Okay. That answers my question.
Yeah, one of the things that can be improved there is, well, okay, well, fine. So Meshery discovers that there's a service mesh that you've deployed, but that could be one of 10 different meshes. So how does Meshery know which one that is? Like what's the unique identifier? What's the fingerprint that it uses to discover what service mesh it is? I think that mechanism could be improved if you stick around in the community long enough. I'll tell you what that mechanism is, which is my way of both saying I've been talking too much and there's a cliffhanger for you.
All right then.
Okay, so I think it's everything for today. Thanks everyone for all your contributions and comments, and see you there in the next meeting that is in 2 weeks at the same hour. So we are very glad to have you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Rodolfo.
Bye.
Hey guys.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Thank you, everyone. Bye bye.